So, for the first question, can you tell a little bit why did you become interested in this subject and why did you shoot in 29 pounds?
So I will answer two parts. I probably got interested in the subject first when I was 18. I spent a year in high school as an exchange student coming from France, and I spent a year with a family and spending time in high school. And during that time, I realized that around every 2 weeks, military recruiters would come at the mess hall for lunch, and they would come to try to convince students to join the army. That was in 98, 99, so 9/11 didn't happen yet, but still, military in the US is very big, so that was, it's something very common in daily life in America to have a military presence. So, as a French young person, I was pretty shocked about that, because in France you don't see the army anywhere. It doesn't say much at all, even though it's active and doing things around the world, but you don't think about it. So I was very curious and pretty shocked about that. And then I came home, 9/11 happened, and I realized that some people that I knew who had joined probably went to war, actually. So besides that, years passed, and I wanted to make a film about American society and patriotism. I traveled on the West Coast for 3 months with my boyfriend, and this journey became a film. And on the way, the idea was to travel along the road and to meet American citizens and to talk with them about their identity, their feeling of, what it's like to be an American today in a country at war. And on the way, we decided to stop in this particular area where you have a lot of military bases. And I just wanted to go to a town and to feel what it was like to live in a military town with the country at war. We stayed there for 2 days, and I realized that I had to come back for a bigger project and much more time.
Okay. There are a lot of films about war and about the Marines and the military in America. A lot of them deal with post-stress, traumatic PST, post-traumatic stress. Sorry.
Yes.
We have also here in Portugal some cases of that because of the colonial war. It's something that interests you also because of something, or it is something of your experience, or it's just something that you needed to know about American culture?
I think that it didn't come from a personal experience, but I think afterwards I realized that it's probably everywhere in our societies that have gone through war in the last 100 years. So I guess that the first thing that struck me when I went to this town is that in the tattoo parlor I realized that there were just young teenagers. They were like 19 years old, and one of them was getting a tattoo with a biblical sentence here on his chest, and he was just looking at the ceiling, just so far away. I couldn't, what is he, where is he right now? I could feel that he wasn't there anymore. And because he was lying down, I felt like he was just a body. He was gone, like it was just a corpse. And it was very violent to me to see that. And I probably wanted to work around this figure of, they're actually just bodies, and their body is their tool for the work. So that's something, I don't know, I felt like they were gone from themselves. And afterwards I realized that, but even later, even when the film was done, I realized that it may have, I mean, it probably had something to do with the fact that my grandfather went to war in Indochina, in Vietnam, the French War, and never talked about it. And I actually never even realized that it wasn't a draft. He wanted to be, or he wanted to go to war, and that was something very, very powerful to me to realize that I had a grandfather who wanted to go to war, and that my mother and his brothers and her brothers and sisters did not want to hear about it. It's not even that they wanted to ask something and that he would not answer it. It's just that they could not handle the idea of a parent wanting to go to war, and that's probably something that was in me, and I felt like, you know, in societies that have gone through war, I mean,
there is a call of silence.
yes, and we're probably all related in some way, and in some with a heritage of this, even though we have no clue of where it is inside of us, but I feel like it's somewhere.
The film is very observational. For making a film like that, you have to be very inside the context. How many months did you shoot the film, and how did you relate with everybody, with the families that you shoot?
I actually was very surprised to realize that people were very easy with the camera. We stayed for 2.5 months in two parts. And actually what happened is that we first met the shopkeepers, shop owners, and they were the guarantee of trust. Once we had their trust, usually people who would go in the shops would be okay. Most of the people were okay with the camera. Some of them did not want to, and that's understandable, but a lot of them were okay, like within minutes they would be okay with being filmed. Afterwards they usually would have questions afterwards, like what's the film for, and some of them were very curious about the fact that we were coming from so far to tell the story. Some of them, like, even though they were a bit, I'm looking for the word,
You could say
méfiant.
Méfiant.
They had some
fear.
Yeah, some fear of the camera. They usually would talk with us, and then when they realized that we would spend a lot of time in town, living here for weeks, then they would be okay, as if, oh, so you know what it's like, so you can feel the heat, you can feel the dust, and some kind of trust came with this. I think the fact that we were a young team, most of us were under 30, and I think it helped also to be around the same ages, even though we were much older actually than the ones we shot, but you know, that not being parent figures, but young people probably helped with the trust. And then some would be okay to open the doors and would come with the families.
But it's easier to make this film in America than in Europe, maybe. They are very used to have reality shows and
definitely. They're very easy with the camera, and they usually play with it actually, even though, I mean, they don't go too far with it. They just, you know, take advantage of it, but in a good way. It's like, yeah, they don't make too much of it, and at the same time they have they're conscious of what they're giving. So even though guys were not speaking a lot, I think that they're actually very aware of what they were giving by having a look on the ground or being very silent. They knew what it meant, because I felt like they were saying something to us with a great awareness. I
think one of the main topics of the film is family. and you have a lot of families. They all seem they are maybe illusionary, not, I don't know. Can you comment a little bit on how did you relate with these families?
Actually, a lot of families are broken, really. A lot of divorces. So all the families we met were actually in difficult situations, even though we don't always see it or it's not told. Difficult situation can be the absence of the father because he's far away, so that's already a very difficult thing. But even with the people who were together at the time, I know that they divorced later. Most of the guys were already divorced, having kids, not being able to see them. Very, very difficult situations. And that's something that I didn't think about it while shooting, but it came to us while editing. We couldn't really mix family situations and guys' situations. Like the women appear in the film afterwards, after the guys are gone again, as if they could not be able to fit in the same picture. The opening of the film tries to, but people don't look at each other, really. The guy keeps his hat on his eyes, and actually they're always separated. It doesn't fit together in the same room, in the same couch, or in the same bedroom. It doesn't work. So I felt like it was always a very complex thing.
So it's a very sad film.
It is. It's a very sad situation, and even though I'm very hopeful, for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in France, it's been very, very difficult for us because I realized that young people spontaneously going to the army to say, I want to do something, I want to help now, has risen like 3-7 times. It's crazy. And yeah, I think it's very dangerous to trust what someone feels when he's angry and sad about what happened, when he's hurt. It's something I feel like people are blinded, going blind and with violence to them, and they want to give back violence. I mean, and yeah, it's
an endless cycle.
Yeah, endless cycle. The film is about this endless cycle: generations, days, hours, weeks, months, and generations. Old ones are leaving, the young ones are coming, and it never ends. And there's always a war to fight, a war to win, or just to leave behind, and just another one to start. And yes, I don't know. I hope to see an end of this. And I hope that these days that we're living right now, I hope that this would be the time to realize that let's stop, let's cut and break this ugly cycle. I hope so.
Just the last question, out of curiosity, why did you choose to have a title in 2 languages?
No, it's for practical reasons. Basically, the title was Killing Time since the start, and then French television actually wanted Arte was a co-producer, and they wanted a French part of the title so that it would be clearer for French people who wouldn't understand the English, even though they wanted to keep the English part.
Yeah, because the title is very precise.
Yeah.
It's incredible, good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.